In truth, I cannot see what the problem is. Jennifer Sinclair put her hands on her hips and favoured her father with a frustrated glare. To stand in the way of progress simply because one dislikes change is quite simply preposterous. Such was her annoyance that the fact she had dared speak so to her father concerning such an emotive subject in polite company went entirely over her head. Not to mention the fact that the person expressing such distaste was a fellow member of the Lords. Unfortunately, the scandalous indrawn breaths of those watching told another story altogether. Nicholas Sinclair gave an inward sigh, recognising that ever more exaggerated tales of his daughter's wilfulness would undoubtedly be circling around the ton within minutes of his guest's leave-taking. Knowing it was expected, his eyes turned wintry cold. Seeing their flinty depths, Jennifer flinched, finally realising her faux pas. His low, "Go to your room, Jennifer," was uttered in a tone she'd never heard from him before. Swallowing, she gave a low curtsy, bowed her head, and hurried from the room. As she ran up the stairs, she caught sight of Anthony's wife through the open door and couldn't help stifling a chuckle. Georgiana's horrified expression was a cross between concern for her friend and overwhelming relief that she hadn't been the one to make a cake of herself in public. On entering her bedchamber, Jennifer seated herself on the window seat and waited for the summons that would inevitably come. She wasn't overly worried, although her father's steely expression didn't bode well. Still, he'd never yet tossed her over his knee, and she didn't think that at 21 he was likely to start now. Lifting her feet up onto the seat, she hugged her raised knees. Jennifer was well aware that she would have tried the patience of a saint over the last 18 months. She was into her second London season, and despite the surfeit of gentlemen vying for her attention, she'd yet to find one who so much as piqued her interest. Sighing, she rested her head on her knees. Her parents had promised not to force her into wedlock, but that didn't mean they would stand idly by while she blithely turned away suitor after suitor. It wasn't that she didn't want to be married. The problem was she wanted a marriage like the one her parents had, and most of the titled gentlemen she'd been introduced to were no more than unlicked cubs. So far up their own nether regions that they had no idea what to do with a woman who actually possessed opinions of her own. She knew that the offers were dwindling, despite her being the daughter of the powerful Duke of Blackmore. She'd even heard mutterings of, "What does one expect of the offspring of a vicar's daughter?" And now, all she'd done with her outspokenness was make matters worse. For her father, her mother, and most definitely herself. Groaning, she dropped her feet to the floor and went to ready herself for bed. Evidently, the summons was being postponed until the morrow. She thought back to her father's stony expression. Mayhap she did have cause to be worried after all.
"I cannot allow her behaviour to go entirely unpunished," Nicholas declared wearily after the last of their guests had departed. "At the very least, she will have to return to Blackmore for the remainder of the season." "I know." Grace gave a tired sigh of her own. "In many ways we only have ourselves to blame. She has grown up in an uncommon household. But Jennifer will never bow to a man, and in truth, I would not wish her to have to." "Then she will remain unwed," Nicholas retorted. "I have 7 sisters who share the same characteristics as our daughter, and they have succeeded in finding men who value their independence," Grace responded tartly.